Just having my morning coffee here, looking at the state of the Canadian Union. Ooh, that's a little spooky. And I'm thinking about that Pierre Poilievre dude. I've taken a crack at Trudeau and also at Mark Carney. And the money's just incredible. I just can't get over the money. And normally I don't look at money. I'm not a real money guy. You can probably tell by looking at me. I'm not wearing any fancy jewelry or, I'm not wearing a $500 sports coat or a pair of Lamborghini shoes. You know what I mean? So it's interesting when you start to look at these guys. The money is just incredible when you look at how much money they had going into the job and how much money they have coming out of the job and what the future looks like. It's just absolutely amazing. I've been on this Brookfield kick a little bit, and you just wonder how much Carney has to gain, and how much Brookfield is going to gain if he gets the gig, right? It's just going to be absolutely crazy. And you think about it, I wonder what it makes me wonder. I mean, he's obviously heavily invested in Brookfield and has been for some time. And it makes me wonder what advice he's given to members in the party. I wonder how many people in the Liberal Party have investments in Brookfield and knew about and played a part in it moving from Toronto to New York City and are waiting now to see what will happen if Carney becomes the prime minister, how his finances will grow and how Brookfield will also reap amazing benefits beyond probably what we can even really comprehend, because we don't have as good an understanding of economics and the financial system. I think the growth that you see posted and the net worth that you see only reflects a portion of what these folks actually have. We're certainly run by sort of an elite class of people that are, I think, really a long ways from the reality that most Canadians live in, and that's a problem. And I think it's not just Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau, but I think if you look at Pierre Poilievre, it's the same thing. Now, there's a guy that never had a job. Do you know what I mean? Never had a job. I could hear my father when I was like 14 years old, go get a job. Do you know what I mean? But I would say, based on my review of his resume, that man's never had a job. In his whole life, he's never had a job. He does not know what it means to work. And in his portfolio, I don't know, something $50 million or whatever he's worth. I've worked my entire life. I've invested. I've gotten involved in real estate, and I don't have $50 million. I wish I did. I wish you did. But the likelihood of us getting it it's probably slim to none. But nonetheless, you take him now as an example, Pierre, and he starts a little company and somebody starts to help him out and he's doing some. I just wonder how many people are going to profit when he's elected. I mean, and the only good thing I think is Alberta needs a little influx of cash there. We're hitting them too hard, and they are the oil and gas base of the country, whether we like it or not. And without oil and gas, I don't know what else you have, really. I mean, I don't think we have a strong aerospace industry. Ever since the demise of the Avro Aero, I think we've gone sort of into the ground when it comes to the aviation industry. And I don't think, in the tech world, we don't really have any kind of Silicon Valley, really, either. I think you could go to Montreal, maybe a little bit in Toronto, but overall, not much there. And industrial defense complex, I don't know. I don't see it myself. We don't really even have a very powerful or strong military. My understanding right now is some of the units that are in the military can't even work because there's no money to fund them. So, obviously our military is an issue, our aviation industry, our vehicles, our cars. We've been making making cars for the United States since the invention of the thing. There's no such thing as a Canadian car or a Canadian boat or a Canadian fridge. I mean, we've been sending our natural resources to the United States since the country's existed. That's how we survive. We survive by sending our natural resources to America. And That's why this tariff thing is such an issue, right? Because, and we don't accept a lot of their things back in, and that Trump is right. I mean, our banking industry is a monopoly in Canada. The American banks can't come in, as an example, and the same with other banks in other countries. So when you look at, the 40 million people, or let's say 50 million people, I'm sure we have a few that shouldn't be here. But if we look at that group of people in this country, this massive country, we can continue to go down this road of immigration, which seems to have caused us all kinds of problems. And I'm not against it. I'm just saying we really haven't discovered what the proper solution is for immigration either. It's kind of created a mess that's going to last now, I think, for a long time. I think the youth today are going to really struggle with all kinds of issues. And I think part of the problem is we just don't make anything. We don't make anything. We don't manufacture anything. We don't advance anything in terms of, electronics or technology. I think as a country, really, we survive based on our natural resources. Now, you might debate that, and I'm sure there's lots of good organizations out there, but I think a big part of what we do is natural resources. And when we reach a time in our history where the natural resources don't matter as much anymore, I think it's going to put the country in a real weird place. And when I look at leadership in the country over the last couple of years, it's kind of a lack of leadership. It's a movement in a direction that just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to most Canadians. And I don't know that of the three that are actually running, and I just say there's three, and I'm sorry for the other parties, it's just you're not in the game. So there's really, matter of fact, when you really nail it down, there's really only two people running, right? We got same as the US. We don't have any real good choice. That's part of the problem. We got two people running, Pierre Poilievre, obviously, and Mark Carney, and that's it. That's it. That's all. They're the only two that want the job. And I wonder sometimes if it's just because they've been groomed for it for so long, so it's just part of the political process. So I don't want to be, not trying to get into conspiracies and all that kind of crazy stuff. You believe what you believe, but I just look at the situation we're in right now. And, like I said, I'm looking at Poilievre and I'm trying to figure out how we made 25, 50, whatever it is, $1 million, and done really nothing. And, you want to say to your kids going to school, if you're going to school to study something, study politics, because that's where the money is. Don't study business. We're saying to everybody, become an entrepreneur. Go out there and become an entrepreneur. Well, we should be saying to everybody, go become politicians, because obviously we need some new politicians. And there's a ton of money in it. Like I said, I bet you if you look at Brookfield, how many liberals have invested in Brookfield, your hat would fall off. It would fall right off your head if you looked at how many people, how many liberals are invested in Brookfield. Anyway, that's all I got for this morning with my morning coffee. Sorry for the long rant, and I know some of it you don't necessarily agree with, but when you put it all together, it just doesn't look good for us, and I'm not happy with any of the candidates we have running right now. And if you are, well, that's good for you. Hope you make the right choice. I know I'm struggling with it.